Pam Bondi freezes, the room goes silent. Senator Adam Schiff looks her straight in the eye and asks the one question that would tell the country everything it needs to know about her integrity. Can you tell the president a hard truth? No spin, no politics, just truth. And what followed wasn't a hearing, it was a loyalty test in real time. A test that revealed how fragile the line between justice and obedience can be. Schiff didn't start with accusations, he started with a gut check. Do you have the independence to say no to power? The silence that followed said more than any answer could.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case. You know,
and sitting here, today,
Senator, 72% of Americans
please, I only have
have
7
lost
minutes.
faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question. You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging law enforcement sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware, just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news is
Are you aware of
horrible. Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not looked
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president
Liz.
has
We're
called,
also worried about Liz Cheney,
the
Senator.
president has
you know
called
what we
for
should
this.
be worried about?
Ms. Bondi,
the
please
crime rate
answer
in
my
California
questions.
right now
You are
is
aware,
through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
Your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I want to be focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president? And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't do it. I won't play politics with any ongoing investigation.
So let me ask you another.
Like you did leaking your colleague Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question, if you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election, yes or no? Was there or was there not?
I can tell you what I saw when I went as an advocate to the campaign.
That's not my question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case. Let me finish. On a case-by-case basis.
Okay, good.
And I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President, I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files
and
for the pardons, as well as the ongoing investigation.
will you be able to review hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am
Of course
asked
you
to
won't.
look
So
at.
will you advise the president?
Can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I
is.
would have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen, I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first day?
mislead this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You were
another question.
censured by
It will
Congress,
also-
Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
it
are
will
so reckless.
It will also be important for you to be able to preserve the records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do you
department.
see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question? Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're frightened now? I can't believe this is even...
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe you're asking such a question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I know that you are pleased that we are moving to the end of round one, and we appreciate your being here.
Because this wasn't about partisanship, it was about whether the next Attorney General could tell the leader of the nation a simple fact, one every court, recount and investigation has confirmed, without fear, hesitation or evasion. But instead of truth, what America got was a maze of words. And every word revealed something deeper about how justice bends when courage disappears. That's the moment millions watching realized this hearing wasn't routine, it was a stress test for democracy itself. Schiff's calm questions became spotlights, cutting through every evasive phrase Bondi tried to hide behind. And each time she dodged, the silence after her words grew heavier, almost unbearable. The tension wasn't between two politicians, it was between truth and denial, between independence and obedience, between what the law demands and what power expects. He asked, do you have the independence to tell the president no? She talked about not playing politics. He asked again, can you tell the president hard truths? She said, I'll follow the law. He pressed further, each question more direct than the last, each one peeling away another layer of political armor. And then came the question that froze the room. Can you say right here and now that the 2020 election wasn't stolen? That should have been the easiest truth for any attorney general to affirm. The evidence is public, the verdicts are in, the courts have ruled, but Bondi couldn't say it, not yes, not no, just a cloud of deflection about not engaging in politics. Schiff's face didn't change, but the silence that followed told the whole story. Because if you can't speak a settled truth, what else will you stay silent about when it matters most? That's the hidden danger of these hearings. They look procedural, but in moments like this they reveal whether the person sitting in that chair will guard the law, or guard the person who appointed them. Schiff's question wasn't just about one election, it was about the foundation of law itself. If a nominee can't affirm a truth everyone knows, how can they be trusted to protect truths no one else can see? Then Schiff moved to something even more tangible, the question of pardons. Would you advise the president not to issue blanket pardons for people who assaulted police officers? It was direct, fair, and obvious. But again Bondi refused to give a clear answer. I'll review cases one by one, she said. It sounded careful, maybe even professional, but underneath it was hollow. Because that wasn't the question. Schiff wasn't asking about process, he was asking about principle. The pardon power is one of the most potent tools a president has. Used wisely, it's an act of mercy. Used politically, it's an instrument of corruption. And when someone seeking to lead the Justice Department won't say that mass pardons for violence against police are wrong, that's not neutrality, it's surrender. Bondi could have drawn a bright line, no violence, no blanket forgiveness, no politics and justice. Instead she left the door wide open. And that's how power wins, one polite evasion at a time. Schiff tried again, will you tell the president not to issue those pardons? She said she'd need to review files. But everyone in that room knew hundreds of files couldn't be reviewed on day one. The question wasn't logistical, it was moral. Would she stand for justice or convenience? And by now it was painfully clear she had chosen the latter. But the most chilling moment came when Schiff turned to the third test evidence. Will you commit that none of the evidence from the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch? That's the kind of promise that every public servant should be able to make without hesitation. But Bondi's answer, I'll follow the law. It sounds fine, right? Reasonable, professional. But here's the truth, following the law is the bare minimum. When the law already requires preservation, saying I'll follow it means nothing. Schiff wasn't asking her to invent rules. He was asking for reassurance that she understood why those rules exist, that she would defend the public record, not just obey procedure. Because destroying evidence isn't theoretical, it's not a footnote in history. It's obstruction, it's erasure, it's the quiet burial of accountability. Evidence from January 6th isn't just paper or data, it's the story of violence, chaos and courage. It's proof of what happens when truth becomes optional. And for the Attorney General of the United States, promising to protect that record should be the easiest commitment in the world. Yet Bondi couldn't even say the words. By that point, the pattern was unmistakable. Every time Schiff offered a simple truth, Bondi reached for complicated process. Every question that required courage was met with technical neutrality. It wasn't about ignorance, it was about avoidance. And that avoidance speaks louder than any denial could. Because in moments like this, leadership is defined not by what you say, but by what you refuse to say. The phrase "I'll follow the law" became a shield, a way to sound responsible while sidestepping accountability. Schiff wasn't looking for politics, he was testing character, and the verdict in real time was unfolding for everyone to see. There's a reason those questions mattered so deeply. The Justice Department isn't just another agency. It's supposed to be the firewall between politics and power. Its highest duty is to say no when the law says no, even if it costs you favor, influence, or your job. Schiff's questions drew that line with surgical precision, and every non-answer blurred it a little more. Let's break it down. The first question, about the 2020 election, wasn't about the past. It was about whether the next Attorney General would let falsehoods infect the future. Every recount, audit, and court ruling across the nation confirmed the same result. There was no massive fraud that changed the outcome. To deny that now isn't neutrality, it's complicity in a lie that already did enough damage. The second question, pardons, tested whether she would uphold justice equally, even when politics demanded loyalty. A president can pardon anyone, but using that power to erase violent crimes against police officers would shred the very idea of equal justice. Saying we'll review case by case isn't balance, it's hiding behind bureaucracy to avoid accountability. And the third, evidence preservation, cut straight to the heart of integrity. You don't need to review files or consult ethics officials to know destroying evidence is wrong. That's Justice 101. A simple yes, we will protect every record would have been enough. But she wouldn't say it. And that silence is louder than denial. Because when an Attorney General nominee refuses to affirm basic truths, it's not caution, it's preparation. Preparation for a world where truth becomes negotiable, where justice depends on politics, and where evidence disappears when it's inconvenient. Schiff's questions weren't traps, they were calibration points, and Bondi's evasions revealed exactly where she stood. Here's what most viewers might have missed. She used three classic tactics of political survival. First, reframing, turning a factual question into a personal anecdote. When asked about widespread fraud, she pivoted to what she saw in Pennsylvania. That shift takes a settled issue and drags it into opinion, muddying facts that aren't up for debate. Second, process shields, phrases like "I'll consult," "I'll follow the law," or "I'll review." They sound responsible, but they mean nothing without a principle behind them. Third, role confusion, claiming neutrality to avoid truth. Saying "I won't play politics" sounds noble until it's used to dodge an uncomfortable fact. Those three techniques aren't harmless, they're how truth dies politely. They let officials pretend objectivity while quietly preserving room to please power later. Schiff saw that playbook in action and refused to let it slide. That's why his tone stayed steady. That's why he kept pressing. Because each non-answer wasn't just evasive, it was revealing. And behind all the policy language were human stakes. January 6th wasn't abstract, it was people bleeding, hiding, fighting for safety. It was the day democracy literally came under attack. The evidence from that day isn't just paperwork, it's a moral ledger. The 2020 election wasn't a talking point, it was the test of whether citizens could still trust that their votes mattered. When leaders won't affirm that trust, the damage ripples far beyond one hearing. Cynicism is what replaces truth when leaders go silent, and cynicism is the acid that eats away at democracy from the inside. You don't lose trust all at once. It dies in moments like this, in small refusals to say what's obvious, in polite evasions that keep doors open for lies to creep back in. Schiff's closing questions weren't about humiliating a nominee, they were about defining the job. The Attorney General doesn't serve a president, they serve the Constitution, and every "I'll follow the law" without context becomes code for "I'll follow whoever tells me what the law should mean." When she couldn't even promise to preserve evidence, Schiff's disbelief was palpable. "Why is that so hard?" he asked. It wasn't anger, it was astonishment. Because saying "I'll preserve the evidence" shouldn't be controversial, it should be automatic, and yet in that moment it wasn't. That's when the hearing turned from oversight to revelation. Every viewer could feel it, the realization that we were watching not just a confirmation process, but a character test. The kind of test that decides whether the nation's top law enforcement officer will serve the law or shield the powerful. And here's the haunting truth: this isn't the first time it's happened. In every era there are officials who think loyalty will save them. But the history of justice in America is written by those who said no, those who resigned rather than bend, those who put the Constitution above their careers. Schiff's calm insistence on yes or no answers was a reminder of that lineage. Because "I'll follow the law" isn't courage, it's compliance. Real independence sounds like this: the facts are clear, the evidence will be protected, no one is above accountability. That's what Americans deserve to hear from anyone who wants to run the Department of Justice. So what did this hearing really reveal? That courage in government doesn't fail in loud moments, it fails quietly. It dies in long pauses, evasive words, and unanswered questions. Schiff didn't need to raise his voice to expose it. He just asked the simplest questions in government and got silence in return. And that silence, it told the nation everything. So now the question turns to us. If a nominee can't affirm basic truths, can't say no to political pressure, and won't even commit to preserving evidence, is that someone you'd trust to protect the law? Would you trust a Justice Department led by someone who treats truth like an option? Because justice doesn't survive long under a shield. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to subscribe and like this video. Share it with someone who still believes "I'll follow the law" is enough when the law already demands courage. The truth doesn't need politics, it needs people willing to say it out loud, even when it's inconvenient. And that's where real accountability begins.